Hey there guys, how's it going? I'm Corey, this is the How to Adult Show, and today we're going to be talking about something that's really very pertinent in today's world as we're opening up from the pandemic lockdowns, thank goodness. And the topic for today's episode is revenge spending, dun dun dun, namely how to avoid it. Revenge spending is a term that you've probably heard thrown around recently, and it describes the phenomenon of all of us emerging from our pandemic at-home hibernation bubbles, stretching our legs, rebuilding our social muscles, and flexing our wallets, saying, YOLO, I haven't spent any money in so long, and I have been so bored. I deserve to take all of the trips and eat all of the meals out and go out with all of the friends and spend all the money because F the pandemic business. This is a real thing. It's happened before, and while I definitely do advise letting loose, indulging in a bit of revenge spending or a YOLO vacation away from your 400 square foot live, work, eat, exercise, sleep condo, let's also talk about ways to avoid wasting money and ending up spending all of 22 sitting like hoarders amid piles of stuff that we bought this year that we actually have no interest in. There's a happy medium to find, just like there's a happy medium with the like buttons on YouTube for this video. Make sure you click either the like button or the dislike button, quite frankly. You do you, and they're both engagement for me. And also, while you're down there hovering around the like buttons, make sure you click subscribe if you haven't done it yet. Thank you so much for clicking, because I know that you just did it. Let's get started with the episode. Before we dive in, though, I want to say a quick hello and welcome to the How to Adult Show. I'm your host, Corey Fowler, and this is your source for all the important adulting life skills, like personal finance, that you wish someone had just taught you in school. So make sure you hit subscribe and let's get started. So revenge spending, also called YOLO spending, is becoming a characteristic spending behavior of 2021. While on one hand, lots of people lost their jobs, their income, their security during the pandemic, and they're still trying to recover from that, there's a whole other group of people who kept their jobs, their income, and their security and simply lost their outlets for spending money. These people are now emerging from their downtown apartments with COVID-fattened savings accounts, Peloton-strengthened legs, HelloFresh burnout, and an urge to replace their COVID stretchy pants with a YOLO shopping spree. As the New York Times said recently, welcome to the YOLO economy. Like I said before, I am all for a little bit of revenge spending. The pandemic sucked hard, still does, but it feels like we're either nearing some sort of end, whether that's a true light at the end of the tunnel, that would be amazing, or just a smaller reprieve from summer and the vaccines, we'll see, but either way, we're allowed to be out and about, and small retailers are actually finally allowed to be open again. Yay for small businesses. Fewer and fewer businesses are being deemed non-essential. Who else hates that word? And I say, go forth, spend money, make yourself happy, and support the small businesses who need you at the same time. All that being said, though, if there's anything that we all should have learned from the pandemic, it's how unpredictable our world can be. Jobs and entire industries that we thought were stable collapsed basically overnight when the pandemic started. Traditionally stable employees were furloughed. Parents had to quit their jobs entirely or reduce hours just to take care of their school-aged kids who are now stuck at home with them. Anything can happen. And while we're all out buying new jeans that are maybe potentially a size larger now, something that should probably be staying at the forefront of all of our minds is the importance of having a large emergency savings fund. You'll hear me say it again, have your emergency savings fund, and not blowing all of our savings with the assumption that we'll get another paycheck next week. Even if this pandemic hasn't affected your work or your livelihood, look around at all of the other people who once had stable employment and recognize that there's actually no such thing. That's something that we've seen during the pandemic. It's just a concept that we're taught as children to hold on to like a little life raft when we wander through job fairs and look at post-graduation career opportunities that we don't really enjoy, but they're stable and pay the bills. I'm going off track. I digress. This is not an episode to pick apart the way that we view employment, but rather to provide you with 5 easy and actionable tips that will help you avoid splurging all of your COVID savings on one epic YOLO spending spree this year. Future you is going to thank you for watching this video. So, YOLO spending avoidance tip number 1 is to reevaluate your budget. Even if you don't use a traditional strict budgeting system, step back and take a real honest look at what your life costs now. Don't rely on the numbers of what your life cost before the pandemic or what your life cost during the pandemic. Our living costs have fluctuated drastically over the past 16, 18, whatever months, and you need to reevaluate how much everything in your life costs. Chances are you're going to find that you're doing things like driving more again. So you'll have higher fuel costs than you did over the past year. And also the cost of fuel is way higher than it was at this time last year. It's definitely going to cost you more to drive than it did before the pandemic. Reevaluate how much you're going to spend eating out, whether this means you'll be spending more on food once you go back to the office again and you feel like you need to buy lunches out. Or maybe you'll find that you're spending less eating out because you're no longer choosing to spend a portion of your income every single week resolutely supporting your favorite local restaurants. Your spending habits have likely changed a lot, and it's best to just spend some time reevaluating your budget before trying to balance your numbers when they're out of balance later. Going along a similar trajectory, tip number 2 is to make sure that you build enough fun money into your budget. You're going to want to have some fun. Just accept it and plan ahead so that you don't feel guilty about it later. Buy that vintage flapper dress to wear to a repeat Roaring 20s party. Go out for an extra coffee date with friends each week. Take weekend trips to nearby tourism destinations that have been shut down for a year and really need you to go on wine tours and kayak trips with them. Spending your money and diverting some savings back towards businesses that need it isn't bad. Just plan ahead for it accordingly to avoid buyer's remorse and credit card statement sticker shock for a while. Tip number 3 is to ask yourself, is this an emotional purchase, or is this something that will truly make me happy? Spending money and consuming just for the sake of living it up and shaking off the COVID cobwebs is not going to be worth it. And I know you haven't been able to have nice things for what feels like a really long time, but that combined with your currently very big savings account isn't a good enough reason to drop buckets and buckets of money into parties or outfits or so many vacations and trips that you actually make yourself more tired than when you were working. If you're already pretty happy with your spending habits, don't allow yourself to stray too far from them in the name of YOLOing your life away just because the government says, technically, we can now. Tip number 4 is to create a to-buy list on your phone. This is one of my favorite basic budget tips, and it applies to this scenario so well. Just like a to-do list, your to-buy list is an ongoing list of things that you might like to buy in the future. Next time you want to buy something, open up your list and write down the item. Tell yourself that under no circumstances are you allowed to buy this item until 2 weeks have gone by. If at the end of that 2-week period you still feel like you need this item, then absolutely you can go and buy it. If not, then you can either delete it from the list or leave it there for later if you still want it, but now it's just not the time. Giving yourself the time to think about a purchase is a great way to stop wasting your money on things that you don't really want or need, because chances are your need for that product will have gone drastically down over that 2-week period. You'll save yourself so many purchases that fall into the love it, couldn't wear it category, because realistically, you didn't wear tight spangled designer dresses even before COVID, so why would you wear them now? Finally, tip number 5 for avoiding revenge spending and YOLOing all your money into the abyss is to create a really big savings goal for yourself to work towards. If you have all the extra money sitting around in your account after COVID, pick a new financial goal to put it towards instead of just designating it for blowing it all. Whether that's saving for a down payment for a house that's now suddenly within your reach because of savings, thanks COVID, or starting a solid investment portfolio, topping up your emergency fund, launching a business you've been wanting to do forever. Creating a big and meaningful goal for yourself is going to help shift your thinking so that you're not tempted to hire a super yacht for the weekend when you compare it to the value that you'll actually get from putting down a larger down payment on your first home. It's always important to have a large savings goal, and really, if you have lots of extra cash kicking around these days, you're going to thank yourself later for setting yourself up for success in the future down the road, rather than YOLOing it all down the drain today. Now, before you go, if you do have the urge to YOLO anything today, I want you to take all that putting yourself out there energy and direct it down towards hitting the subscribe button and chatting with me in the comments. I really love hearing from you. If you have a big YOLO spending planned before you tighten the purse strings back up again, share it with us below. We will live vicariously through you. Tell us what it is. Personally, I think a nice vacation is hopefully on my horizon this year to escape at least part of our Canadian winter. It was kind of dreary last year. Or potentially a new kayak for next summer. That would be fun too. Either one, something to make us feel better. Let me know what yours is. Again, I'm Corey, host of the How to Adult Show. Thank you for tuning in today. I cannot wait to see you right back here next Monday with a brand new episode of the How to Adult Show.